Hi, everyone. I'm Gary Null. It's always a pleasure to be able to share time with you. And what we've done in the last couple of weeks is collected your concerns, whatever the issue is, and I've then blended that into an essay, much of it extemporaneous. But at the end of this essay, it will be printed and put up on GaryNull.com under new articles, because you may want to share it with other people. A lot of you are probably watching this right now on Gary Null YouTube. We've had thousands upon thousands of new people because for the last 7 months, I was so busy doing 7 new books, presenting them, new documentaries, 3 of them, a whole new lot of work that I've not had the time to do these. Now I have. And on love, on honesty, on happiness, on anger. And today it's on a topic that many of us need to know about, and that is passion. Recently, I had a retreat, some wonderful human being. Some of them I've known for a long time. Some have been to retreats at the Fertile Farm out in New Jersey at Lake Apacong, down at the Healing Springs Ranch. And yet there was something missing. And so when I spoke to these people one-on-one, and I did over 36 lectures, more than what I would normally do, because I felt that there was an unease within these people's lives. And a lot of them were facing crisis of what they had denied and avoided. One friend had open heart surgery. Why? Because of what he had not let go of that was negative, and what he had refused to embrace that was positive, taking control of his life. Other people had taken control, according to him. But now he is certain, because of having a near-death experience, that he's on the right road. So where you been for the last 30 years? So it sometimes takes time and experiences before we wake up and realize, what are the results of how I've lived my life? What are the results of my values and beliefs? Have the people I trusted to make decisions on my behalf, have they been honest and good? Is there a positive outcome? Sometimes yes, more often not, no. Now they're realizing how they've been weaponized, tribalized, balkanized, split off. And everyone's engaged in some form of fear campaign, mockery, negative, toxic speech. And yet we're like puppets being played. So I saw an aging in my audience I had not experienced up to this point, where people are kind of accepting that the choices they've made have now led them to some inevitable negative outcome. Their life has shrunk. They're not up for the things they used to be up for. They're no longer open and wanting to try and do and experience life. They have a blank canvas that at one time depending upon their age and what they were doing and their responsibilities, they filled in this beautiful canvas. They were the architect. Impacted by other people, yes. But what if the impact was a positive impact? What if the people telling what to do and sharing their insights were constructive? And then we had those that were not constructive, that were biased. People wanting you to have a good outcome, but giving you wrong information, so you couldn't if you followed their advice. At what point do we realize we should be the architects of our own life? And now people are suddenly suffering buyer's remorse. If only I had done it differently, Gary. And I saw this. I saw people aging out of their own life. People that used to be much more open, happy, creative, curious. And now all those lights have dimmed. They're just going through some form of existential angst and living a very small existence, almost waiting to die. They don't see any happiness, joy, creativity, release from the pain, emotional choices they've made that didn't work out, and become a new, authentic person all over again, which they can. So my talk today is on the subject of bringing back your passion. Passion, which is the energy that allows us to thrive and have joy and to harmonize that energy and passion with others. Because what is it that we all share at the end of the day? We share our energy, the great energy exchange. And that is how we have joyful life. And that brings me to this. So what can I say to all of you? Because I did 26 lectures in 2 weeks down at the last retreat we just had. Because in my opinion, many of you, good people, wonderful human beings, I'm proud to be a part of your life, but you're aging out. You're acting your age. You're believing you no longer are relevant. Because when you look in the mirror, you don't see the body you once saw, your hair, your skin, even your energy level. Well, I don't have the energy. I've got this pain. I got this going on. I had to have triple bypass surgery. True story. But you had been at 6 retreats. You had been in classes. You had the knowledge. If you had the knowledge to have a healthy heart, then why didn't you apply that knowledge? Well, it's the relationship I'm in and all these excuses. Never make any excuse for not doing the right thing more important than doing the right thing. So I'm seeing that people who once were vitalists, who are up for anything, want to go for 2 weeks and we're going on a bike ride across America? We did it. Want to join me when I go for the first marathon in London? And even though we couldn't hear what he was saying because there were so many people around him, the man who won the gold in the Olympics and was in the Chariots of Fire movie, he was up there. And just seeing a person that we were motivated by the movie, and there he was. But he wasn't that young guy hurdling with champagne glasses on each hurdle to see that he could hurdle without tipping over the glass. There we saw him, old and very decrepit. I mean, he wasn't healthy. So what happened between when he was healthy and happy and joyful and then not? We have to ask ourselves the same thing. And we haven't. And we must at this time, if we want to become relevant again. So what's missing? What is the piece of the puzzle that I'm going to share today? Passion. When your passion returns, and that's up to you, then suddenly everything that you think that you couldn't do, you can again. Maybe at a different level. Maybe you have to take longer in getting into that rhythm, getting into the discipline, and getting into the desire. Without desire, there's not going to be passion. With desire, passion becomes power. So my discussion now with you is about changing your thoughts and your choices and your actions so your life regains color and charge. So we're going to plug that light in. You keep turning on and off the light, nothing happens because the plug is not in. Your energy is not engaged. Your energy is not engaged because you're believing that you're old. You might be 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. But that doesn't count because energy doesn't have an age nor an expiration date. So I'm going to share something that I believe is just really simple, but it's demanding. Embracing passion. Now, passion is not noise, nor is it spectacle. It is the current that makes a moment feel profoundly alive. Sometimes it rises as a shiver of recognition when old songs play. That's why I like a lot of old music. Or when an unexpected kindness lands. Or when work suddenly aligns with purpose. What are you doing today? I'm doing something important. What? I'm doing, why? Because it aligns with my purpose. It allows me to feel that my life is relevant. This 24 hours will have meaning that it wouldn't otherwise have because I have a good purpose today. The signal is unmistakable. Attention deepens. Time widens. And your body and mind say, yes, I can. And that begins it. So what is the texture of real passion? Authentic passion reconnects the present with what has always been true. You're the architect. When you build something, when you create a thought, when you have imagination that allows itself to run wild like wild horses, then consider how certain music can bridge decades. The notes may be sung by older voices, the range diminishes, yet the feeling is intact, and the body floods with memory. Hormones shift, proteins hum, the nervous system brightens. Pleasure here is not mere stimulation, it is recognition. Real passion is a reunion with what is already yours. You just refuse to look at the signature. Who's the architect of this piece of work? You are. Your authentic self is saying, I'm not going to wait till hospice care with a last goodbye to my family to say, I wish I'd done it differently, and then pass without them being able to respond. No, I'm recognizing that I'm the architect of my thoughts. Other people have input, but now I know the difference between input and knowledge and introspection and wisdom. Because real passion is a reunion with what you already are. This differs from artificial intensity, the kind of delivered by drugs and processed sugar and caffeinated overload or compulsive thrills, the excesses of exuberance leading into decadence. Those deliver a spike and a bill. Authentic passion delivers presence and leaves strength in its wake. Remember, your body has native wisdom. Underneath personalities and opinion lies an orchestra of about 100 trillion cells, more or less, each acting with quiet intelligence. Without instruction, lungs trade air, hearts time the beat, intestines harvest and move, nerves communicate at light speed. When injury or insult arrives, smoke, alcohol, allergens, the body rallies to protect balance. The pattern is consistent. The organism that you call your body reaches for harmony, even when you're engaged in bad habits. This is the foundation of passion, as well when life is aligned, energy flows without forcing it. You come to an openness. You don't have to convince me of something, Carrie. My innate self has been telling me what I should do for decades. I just haven't been paying attention. Now I am, because there's a consequence. What's the consequence? Well, I just had cancer, just had a heart attack. Can't hear, losing my memory, losing my muscle mass, shrinking down. It's a pain just to get up in the morning. But all that's about to change. Why? How did you get conditioned to block all the signals? Well, maybe tribal thinking, schools, media, families, institutions often swap inner knowledge and knowing for outer obedience. Diet once praised meat and sugar, refined carbohydrates, while ignoring living foods. You were a health nut. You didn't say that you were a sick nut. You were a stupid nut. You were a political nut. You were a religious nut. You were an intellectual nut. You were dehumanizing and overly emoting nut. But go too far with happiness and love, kindness and joy, empathy and protecting the sacredness of life, and you're an extremist. Yeah. So when you understand that we've ignored what was important for us, whether it's chlorophyll, enzymes, the vital energy of plants, classrooms reward memory over wisdom. Homes model approval over authenticity. When was the last time you actually saw something that looked original? Bit by bit, people learn to trade self for acceptance. So now we have to look at a culture of the overfed and the undernourished. Plenty of calories, little vitality, plenty of information, little integration. We have become fragmented wholes. Society divides what should be held together. Youth are alienated from elders, wealth from responsibility, image from character. The cost is felt everywhere. Elders sidelined from contribution, communities split by race or class. Race hustlers abound, the new Jim Crow. are people who don't seem to understand what they're doing and the consequences, especially for young, volatile minds. When the whole is broken into parts, no single piece can satisfy the need for completeness. Image, well, that's everything today, isn't it? How people look. But imagine the alternative, elders sharing mastery with the young, skills and love moving both directions, technology used to transmit wisdom instead of distraction, wholeness restored, passion, because it restores meaning. Busyness isn't aliveness. When emptiness threatens, distraction is the quick fix. Binging, scrolling, shopping, working late, wearing virtue as a costume. The mind that created the void cannot fill it by doing more of the same. A new mind is required, one that values silence, depth, honest contact over spectacle. Actual aliveness is quiet, director of oneself, and grounded in completeness. Noise is just a decoy. So let's stop the shortcuts. Instant gratification promises the feeling without a practice, but life is cumulative. Fast food today becomes inflammation tomorrow. Intellectual shortcuts become inarticulate thought. I'm embarrassed that there's no real, true, honest, liberal community alive today. Individuals exist, but the platforms to helping them share their knowledge don't. True conservatism, well, it's been replaced by spectacle of ignorance and insensitivity to geopolitical minds, where hegemonic practices are their mantra. No, you create no authentic bonds. You create collective psychoses. The bill always arrives when you least expect it. Choose the long arc, scholarship over hot takes, craft over hack, nourishment over novelty. Passion grows where mastery grows. Energy hygiene, everything taken in food and feeling like, becomes part of the field. Junk food weakens tissue, junk emotions weaken spirit. Chronic anger, envy, or doom talk are calories of the psyche with no nutrients. Company matters. Sit with the bitter long enough, and the tongue forgets the sweet. Guard the inputs. Curate the room. Let attention be a high standard. Fantasy versus reality. When reality fails to match fantasy, many cling to the fantasy and adopt to a smaller life. We shrink ourselves down. Entire industries rise to service the gap that shows that soothe. No. Substances that numb, like marijuana. Substances that deprive us of real feelings or understanding the cause and effect, like your antidepressive medication, anti-anxiety medication. Narratives that explain away agency, excuses we make for our maladapted behavior. Adaptation buys comfort at the price of passion. Transformation asks for truth, and that in turn offers freedom. Everything changes, your cells, your seasons, the relationships, the terrain, friends that you once had such joy in relationships being with, and one day they're gone. Someone decided to take a different path, which required a different time, different balances, different people in their lives, different mastery. It's not that you will never remember the previous relationships. It's just that they're not going to be present today with you. An average person doesn't take many journeys in life. They stick with something they've mastered and feel comfortable in it right to the end. Others are willing to master something, let it go and master something else, let it go and master something else. That means they're going to constantly be changing after periods of time. All of it building upon the confidence, I can do it. even if I have to start from scratch. The only leverage point is now. Practice in this moment determines the texture of the next. Fear of practicing, fear of letting go, fear of surrendering the common then leads you to a place where you're going to look at the back of your head. Where have I been for the last 2, 4, or in some cases, someone I know, 36 years? You've been walking in a circle of the certainty of the moment you're in. Nothing is going to change. You're going to resist everything. You'll become negative. You'll become toxic. You'll become your own worst enemy. You'll wake up in the morning and give yourself 10 reasons why you shouldn't do anything because. All nonsense, all game. You lose the game, you lose your relevance, you lose your life because you have no passion for anything except protecting your insecurity. Shame on you. You've been given such gifts that you've just thrown them into the garbage. And yet you've maladapted to that. Now there's nothing else you're going to do the rest of your life. That chapter closes your life. I know people whose life closed when they were 20 years old. Food chosen today writes tomorrow's chemistry. Thoughts today train for tomorrow's tone. There is no security later, only alignment now. So let's deal with fear and guilt and the price of complicity. Institutions manage behavior with fear and guilt. They buy the fix, take the pill, obey the narrative, trust Howard Stern, trust Rachel Maddow, trust Rush Limbaugh and his memory, and Bill O'Reilly, and the rantings of Sean Hannity, and the sociopaths, all of whom are sociopathic, in my opinion, who've led this country for the last 100 years. All grossly failed people. And the only reason they're in that position of power, we're given that power, because we were more grossly misinformed and fearing the truth would set us aside as an uncomfortable outlier. Well, yeah, everyone has one of those in their family, Gary. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to try something different. Have the courage to open a different door. I don't want to go in that door. That door's closed, blocked. My fear and insecurity, my shame and my guilt. I can't do that because my religion won't allow me to do that. I'm controlled. I'm a vessel of someone else's insecurity. Wow. Don't we have the courage to say any of this? No, we do not. There's no more platforms for the truth. Look at what you can say and can't say now. It's all controlled in the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, Fox. All of these are platforms for those who are so damn insecure, so superficial, so stupid, without pure intellect, but only passion for control, that then we go ahead and believe them in their message. If you stop long enough to say, which side did you come down on when they told us weapons of mass destruction? The Gulf of Tonkin, let's go kill some people in Southeast Asia. What does it tell you when President John F. Kennedy had so many mistresses? He dwarfed that of Bill Clinton. Didn't think that was possible. And yet not a single person in the media would talk about his true character. Well, if a person is willing to do something that dishonors their marriage, dishonors the principle of their own religion, dishonors the statements they've made to the public, then they're going to do everything that's in their own interest and rarely anything in yours. Remember what I've said, how you do one thing in life that's essential to the truth is how you're going to do everything else. So you think I'm going to trust you? Not for a heartbeat if I see what you've done to yourself and your family. Because suddenly you're going to say, well, yes, my kid's a beast and it's going to die before me. All right. Yes, we have terrible curriculum. We have terrible school system. And I didn't protest any of that. I haven't protested anything because who am I? And what would it cost me if I did? And I don't even know how to protest. I don't even know what the truth is anymore. All I know is my conditioning is getting me day to day, and I'm, So I'm supposed to trust that your judgment has some wisdom attached to it? Not on your life. The cycle is profitable, provokes the problem, and it sells the salve, and it repeats ad nauseum. How many times can we say at the end of a day, this was a unique day, this was a different day, this was a wonderful day, this was a healing day, and inspirational day? As you take the dog out for the final movement, throw the wash into the dryer, look around, and then fall into bed, completely exhausted physically, but dead emotionally. We repeat responsible habits until there's no more responsibility left. The cycle is profit-provoking, and yet we won't break ourselves from it. When you withdraw your consent, when you reject energies that are not honoring your body, mind, and spirit, and beliefs, and your freedoms, then you've taken a good step. Stop listening to so-called experts. Find the truth and see if the results of your truth harmonize your life. History keeps a ledger of dismissed truths. Fiber was mocked, environmental caution derided, integrative care labeled quackery, until outcomes made the case. Passion respects results. If you're a physician, if you're a scientist, if you're a politician, if you're a sociologist, show me the results. Don't talk about your mission in life and your motives and your passion for it. Don't ask me to reward you with respect, Hollywood and everyone in it, Wall Street and everyone who goes down there each day into a wild shark feeding frenzy looking for new blood. Show me the results and how they impact people and the environment and respect for life. Passion respects good results, and yet we're flooded with bad results. It listens for what heals regardless of who said it, then accepts the cost of being early. Passion isn't a mood, it's a power source for sustained discipline. Without craft, passion burns fast. With craft, passion becomes a steady flame that brightens skill, character, and contribution. I'll give you a little tirade. Presence to feel what matters, practice to make it reliable, purpose to aim the energy well. How do we reignite? Is there plenty of awareness but little passion? Where is the passion? Boxed in by shame, guilt, and fear? Is life being theorized instead of actualized? Let me talk about that. Let's have a conversation. We need to talk. No, we don't need to talk. Stop your damn talking. Stop all this nonsense, this chatter, this endless stupidity that comes out of everyone's mouth all the time. Go silent and actually do something constructive if you're capable of it. But don't think you're going to solve a problem by talking it into its completion. You won't. We're a nation of bullshit talkers. Everybody got an opinion, and rarely is that opinion going to actualize into something constructive for everyone. We've been tribalized, balkanized. We've been separated by ideology. You're rich, you're poor, you're middle class. How stupid is all this? It's such immaturity. Is life being theorized instead of actualized? Let's have fewer speeches and more positive steps. It's time that we spend pursuing happiness instead of dodging pain. Avoidance is a poor compass. Actualize. Don't over-explain. Mastery is repetition with attention. Stop waiting to be rescued. My goodness. The Republicans wait for someone to rescue some part of their lives. The Democrats live in constant angst. Their life seems like they're always looking over their shoulder for something to complain about. They're humorless, and they're without depth. And that's unfortunate because that didn't used to be the case. So no one's going to rescue you. No outside system, deitism, Ism of politics, religion, or brand can substitute for inner work. Systems can support, but they can't supply self. Passion returns when responsibility for your actions and thoughts also return. Subtract distractions. Add new space. Distraction dilutes the present and steals the hours passion needs for practice. Edit the calendar, the feeds, the rooms, the rituals. You don't need them. Every distraction returns time. And time is the auction of change. But it only returns it when you make time, in reality, important again. When you were 20, 30, time didn't matter. 40, it was starting to. 50, yeah, you're on the downside of time. Sand is running out of that clock. Other people's ceilings shouldn't be yours. Believe what the body tells you. Expectation shapes performance. Attention shapes endurance. Choose beliefs that widen capacity and then prove them through disciplined action. Confidence grows from kept promises. I promised myself and then fill in the blank. Inner security beats outer applause. Attempts to control perception, performing goodness, curating image, breed fragile bonds. They're not solid. First time challenge, they break. Authentic connection arises when inner security no longer demands or depends upon external praise. If you're going to help someone, do it because it's the right thing to do. Relationships thrive when two people complete themselves, not when two emptiness negotiate to be something that neither are separately. Bring the best of yourself and leave the rest at the back door. None of us are perfect, but if we focus upon what we are good at and love and are willing to share that, then we have real relationships. Examine all so-called official expert truths. When institutional narratives clash with your own lived reality, investigate it. Keep what nourishes, discard what denatures. The reward for being or believing in a lie is illness of the body, culture, and the soul. The reward for practicing truth is strength of character. Nourishing inputs like whole foods and real rest and honest speech and clean air and meaningful work and forgiving hearts and unconditional love, where you're going to see the best in all things. Not that you're denying the worst that can happen, but the worst is not the majority. The worst does not build strong foundations of quality relationships or understanding the truths within someone else that you're about to attack, though you've never met that person. Wasn't it Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and others like them, people of no character, no quality, who then demanded that we pay attention? Oh, these are just rednecks, or these people are just, they're proud of their guns and their religion. Forget them. They're just garbage people. They're of no value. They're certainly not going to be respected by us, nor are we going to go out of our way to help them anyway. Are those the same people you're talking about that whenever there's a flood, they're the first to risk their lives to get out there to help you? They don't ask you before. They say, come on, get in the little boat I have back here and we'll get you out of harm's way. Down in Houston when that hurricane was there installed and trillions of gallons of water fell and there was no place for it to go. Who came out of their ivory towers? Who came out of the high rises where they had the generators on the roof and they still had power? So they had water, they had food, they had sanitation. They looked down and saw these people, these rednecks, these deplorables, who were actually out there helping. Who built the rich and powerful, the mega-minded egocentrics? Who built their cars? Who made their clothes? Who built their homes? Who fixed their phones? Who brought in the lights, the electricity, the heating, the plumbing, the trellises? Who brought in that they could have a security system and installed it? The very things they give no credit for, They'll go into a restaurant and spend $300 on a meal. Do they have any knowledge of who grew the food, where it was grown, how it was grown? Were people treated fairly by this? Are they getting a percentage of that $500? Or are they just being exploited? You see, a forgiving heart understands a cold, calculating heart, like the lack of credibility of any of the influencers. Yeah. So before you attack someone you've never met in whole, and the Democrats did it, and the Republicans have done it, stop for a moment and ask yourself, why am I saying this? Why am I doing this? Why do I suddenly hate someone I've never met, know nothing about, and have someone else that I've never met in person who doesn't live near me, doesn't shop where I shop, doesn't eat food I eat? Why am I trusting that person to tell me about how I should distrust that person? These are all denaturing concepts. The processed calories, the constant outrage, the flattery as currency, stale rooms, cynicism, and that's what both parties have become. And then the average person says, I don't know about any of this. I better align with something that does my thinking for me. The most subtle dependency then becomes a norm. Comfort. Comfort keeps growth small and passion sleepy. Step into purposeful discomfort, learn the skill, make the amends, speak of the boundary, change the diet, sit in silence. Discomfort teaches fast and returns dividends. But the moment you feel too comfortable, you're not growing. So make it a daily practice. Begin with 5 minutes of stillness. Attend to your breathing until the mind unclenches. Move the body, walk, stretch, Pilates, yoga, meditation. Train until blood and mood brighten. Choose foods that leave energy after the meal. Do not focus upon that which is negative as if it's important today. Focus upon the selection of positive insight. Offer one quiet kindness without announcement. End the day by naming 3 real gratitudes, small disciplines, kept daily, compound into palpable passion. Embracing passion is not chasing fireworks. It's living so aligned that ordinary hours glow. Seek truth, guard attention, practice what matters, and let the heart recognize itself again. In that recognition, life gathers warmth and direction, and the word in the world that listens to all this benefits. Because you're not going to want to destroy the word by slanging it, distorting it, weaponizing it. Think before you speak of what it means to be the person that's going to absorb that message. That's how genocide occurs. That's how denialism occurs. That's how a country that has all the scientists and all the experts and yet has some of the sickest people on the planet and never explains itself, only makes excuses. We need more money, more institutions. No, we don't. Passion is the feeling of wholeness moving through the human day. It carries you. And those are just some thoughts. So for all of the people in this audience, when I was there on PBS and brought them the 3 biggest hits in their history up to that moment, played some like PBS Channel 13 New York, I actually called Alan Foster and said, would you please stop playing my program? He said, no. He said, it's our most popular show ever in Fundrise, and you're bringing in a whole new audience we didn't have. So clearly people want to know that message. So why should we deprive them? When they stop listening, we'll stop earning money, and then we'll stop playing it. But that didn't happen. And then the next special, Get Healthy Now, where I introduced Dr. Oz and 12 of the finest physicians I could find they introduced what they believed in and how they saw health different from what your Orthodox physician did. But at one time they were all Orthodox. And then with Barbara Seaman for women only. and then 32 other programs after that. Think of how many tens of millions of people on all these stations were hearing a message over and over and over and over again. And what changes did they make? I don't know. But throughout my life, I've come in contact with people, sometimes just very casually at a farmer's market just this weekend, who, when I was getting some mushrooms for a dish I was about to make, and the person came over and said, we've never met, but I've watched on PBS here, and I began to make some changes. And boy, has it made a difference, because now I see the benefits. I just keep making more changes. I got about 20 of your books. And he said, and I take those messages seriously. How many people had the message and chose not to use it? How many used it? And today, they're not looking or acting their age. They're much more vital. How many people have lost their passion and now, hopefully, after today, will begin to realize maybe that's what I need to realize I'm more than my chronological age and my biological body. I can change this body. We have the tools. I can change my mind. I can finally open the prison that I have crafted and been in, no matter how I decorate it. I've limited my life. Now it's time to explore and expand my life. If my talk with you today has had any meaning at all, and each will understand it in their own way, then please actualize it. Bring passion back. Don't be afraid of the consequences. Don't be afraid of what you cannot control. Because if all you do is stay within the realm of what you control, your life is shrunk down to almost a meaningless ritual. I want to see you expand so you have the vitality you had, the curiosity you had, and the interest you have, and just abandon a lot of the things that have kept us prisoner. Negative thoughts, insecurity, uncertainty, guilt, and shame. That only creates incompleteness. And then that creates anger and then disappointment. One day we will look in the mirror and think, why haven't I joined any important social causes? Why haven't I joined my own health cause to make myself healthier? Why am I looking for the negative instead of the positive? Why do I make excuses for everyone in power? Because I'm aligned with them politically or ideologically or religiously? Why can't I just let the truth be what it is and live my own truth? And hopefully align with people who have similar truths for the good. Share this with others. There'll be more. I've just spent the last 4 days on this topic, in part because our internet service, because of this solar storm that came through, knocked us out. And so that's why people haven't been able to call in except a couple. And even yesterday's show ended because of that solar storm. But even that, preparing for a solar storm, preparing yourself if something happens, that's also part of our passion to be prepared for life as it is, and therefore be able to be happy each day, no matter what the consequence. I'm always looking at the rainbow, even when I'm in the midst of a storm. I'm Gary Null. Go to GaryNull.com and you can download all this. And right now, we're up to near the end of our program. If you're watching this and listening to this on Progressive Radio Voices, but we're going to take a quick break. And if you'd like to call in real quick, I'll take 2 or 3 calls. Our talkback number is 888-874-4888.